Hello, I'm Rhys Evans. In this video I'm going to be discussing Stanley Kubrick's representation of mental illness within both The Shining and A Clockwork Orange. Stanley Kubrick is possibly my favourite director of all time due to his gritty subject matter and unusual style. He was a well-known perfectionist, always ensuring that his vision was fully realised and executed perfectly, leading to countless complications with cast and crew over his career. This video will be analysing his representation of mental illness within two of his classic films, The Shining and A Clockwork Orange. The Shining is a classic atmospheric horror film from the 1980s. The film's about Jack Torrance, a former teacher turned writer, who agrees to take care of a hotel named the Overlook that has a history of turning those who stay there violent, with its last caretaker murdering his wife and two daughters with an axe. While Jack grows more insane and violent, his son Danny attempts to use his gift of the Shining to alert people on the outside about what's happening within. The film shows Jack's mental state deteriorating as he spends more time in the Overlook, leading to him hallucinating and conversing with his hallucinations, and thinking that his family are going against him, believing that his son is taking his place in his wife's life, leading to him hallucinating and conversing with his hallucinations and thinking that his family are going against him, believing that his son is taking his place in his wife's life. This has led to much speculation about Jack suffering from paranoid schizophrenia, with details from the film also suggesting this. A Clockwork Orange is a crime film set in the 1960s in London. It follows charismatic gang leader Alex Delage and his three droogs on their acts of ultra-violence until the gang reject Alex as a leader, and him turning on them, finalising that, leading them to setting him up. Alex murders a woman after breaking into a house and is taken to prison, where he's given the opportunity to get his sentence dismissed if he goes through a new experimental procedure to cure him of his violent tendencies. Alex is given drugs to make him nauseous and forced to watch acts of violence as he's given them, leading him to associate violence with nausea. It has been heavily speculated that Alex suffers from antisocial personality disorder, with plenty of evidence to support this theory. In The Shining, Jack's mind state is similar to that of a paranoid schizophrenic. Isolation has the potential to become a trigger to some sort of mental illness, and creativity itself has even been linked to the development of schizophrenia and bipolar disorder. Jack was in a setting of severe isolation, apart from society completely, and also happened to be very creative. These two factors are not sufficient reasons to diagnose Jack with paranoid schizophrenia. His case must be viewed much deeper. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders requires delusions and hallucinations to be present in order to diagnose an individual with paranoid schizophrenia. So Jack does fit these requirements. But a proper diagnosis requires more concrete evidence. His downward spiral begins when he starts to lose his creative potency as a writer. This prompts Jack to feel almost powerless to his writer's block, and eventually to his family. One of Jack's earliest delusions is triggered by the frustration with his wife always doting on Danny. Jack begins to feel as if Danny has replaced him, and this transitions into the eventual belief that his family is conspiring against him. Delusions are the prelude to hallucinations, and in the cases of paranoid schizophrenia, believing is seeing. In A Clockwork Orange, Alex is evidently a troubled individual, but audiences have diagnosed him with antisocial personality disorder, which, when you look at the characteristics, does fit. The table on screen displays the characteristics of antisocial personality disorder and the things Alex does to evidence them. Kubrick did a great job of tying the traits of antisocial personality disorder with Alex's character, committing acts that conform to the disorder and having a backstory that also supports it. A Clockwork Orange also features the glamorous psychopath theory. The glamorous psychopath theory describes an anti-hero that gets supported by the audience despite their tendencies. In Alex Delage's case, it is because he is smarter, more elegant, and more skilled than his peers. This causes the audience to gain respect for him as a character and to support him through his acts of violence. The glamorous psychopath theory also ties into the fact that on-screen violence causes the viewer to live vicariously through the media they are consuming, satisfying their repressed, violent tendencies. Alex's use of language within the film, how he combines Old English with both Russian and slang to create his vocabulary, causes the viewer to hang on to his every word to understand what he's saying. This is a great example of how Alex has antisocial personality disorder, even inflicting his superiority onto the audience who have to decipher his words when he's given exposition. From watching both films, it became evident to me that Stanley Kubrick uses camera shots to reflect the character's mind state. This is extremely prevalent throughout both The Shining and A Clockwork Orange, and happens exclusively when the person on screen is on a state of mental instability. It happens in The Shining frequently with Jack being the character seen most within these shots, but Wendy and Danny both having their own when they are in a dangerous or stressful situation that disturbs their mindset. In A Clockwork Orange, Alex receives multiple extreme close-ups where he has his face twisted up to display his twisted mindset. Another example of Kubrick using this technique is with Mr. Alexander, who was paralysed by Alex after he raped his wife with his droogs. The technique is incredibly effective as it places the viewer uncomfortably close to the character, allowing them to fully study their facial expressions, and with them being so dramatised, it is easy to read what that person is thinking and how they're feeling. Kubrick never uses this technique for happy moments though, and I do not believe it would be as effective, because happiness is an easy emotion to read, displayed with a smile. However, darker emotions are more complex and harder to read, giving the audience the opportunity to analyse how that character is feeling. This is a technique that I have used in my own work previously. In my most recent short film, Plagued, I utilised a close-up shot to show the pain in the character's face after he watched his friend take his own life. I did not do a full Stanley Kubrick-style close-up head-on with the character's face twisted, as it would not be fitting with the rest of the film, so I reinterpreted it and made it appropriate for my own production. In conclusion, Stanley Kubrick's representation of mental illness within both films is implemented through acting, camera angles, and themes included within the plot. He never diagnoses the person within the film, and I believe this is to make it subtle and to keep the film's plot about the characters' lives as a result of their illness, rather than focusing on it. That's the end of this visual essay, so thanks for watching and tune in next week for some more film analysis.